Welcome back to Conversations. I'm Rusty Ray. This is a show where we like to talk to people about different events, different programs, different efforts across the community that may be going on in the North Metro. We're happy to be joined today by Gretchen Sabel with the League of Women Voters, Anoka, Blaine, Coon Rapids, and several other communities as well, right? Mm-hmm. And you all are looking ahead to 2020, a big year for League of Women Voters. 100 years, really, since the center of this suffragette movement and the women's rights and women's right to vote. Is that why this is kind of a year to kind of mark that?
Okay, Rusty, thank you for having me today. It is a centennial year for us, so that's a big deal. The state of Minnesota voted to ratify the Women Voting Amendment in March of 1919. So we're actually past the centennial for Minnesota, and League of Women Voters was actually formed in October of 1919, so 100 years ago. But we're celebrating all year long. We have a history display that we're going to be bringing to Anoka County, and so that's what we're here to talk about today. It's going to be at the Northtown Library and the Rum River Library. So it'll be interesting and exciting. We have the history of the suffrage movement from early, the whole up to today. And then we also have a special display from Anoka County. So the history of League of Women Voters in Anoka County. We formed in 1960. And so kind of looking at the last 50 years for us, or whatever, that's 80, 70, long time.
And a lot has happened in that amount of time too, not the 100 years, but even a smaller amount of time. Do you hope that folks come to see that and maybe learn a little bit of history, maybe gain a certain level of appreciation for some things? Is that the aim here?
We got a couple of things we're trying to get out of this, or that we're trying to do with this. We're trying to get out of it. It's our mission is to support voter education, voter registration, and sound election practices. And so that's kind of where we find our niche. And so for these two events, I'll just talk about these events for a minute. And so we have this history display. It's going to be at the Northtown Library from January 13th through January 29th. And then we're moving up to Rum River in Anoka from the 30th through February 14th. And on the evening of the 13th, 6:30 at Northtown, we are having a big event. We're going to have a Girl Scout Honor Guard. We're going to have a choir. We're going to have Aaron Cagle, Representative Aaron Cagle is going to speak, the highest elected women official in the Blaine area, so that'll be fun. And then when we're up at Rum River, then on February 1st, we're going to kind of do the whole thing over again, but there we're going to have Boy Scouts, because men join League of Women Voters too. So we have the Boy Scouts, we have a different choir, and Representative Peggy Scott is going to speak there as our highest elected woman official. So it'll be a lot of fun, and we're hoping people come to these events to learn about League of Women Voters, learn about the history of women's suffrage, but also then we're going to have voter registration there. We're going to have information on the census, because we're working hard on the census. We are going to have at the Northtown event on the 13th, we're going to have a speaker talk about the history of women's suffrage. And so that's Sandy Connor. She's a member of our group and also a member of the Daughters of the Revolution. And so she's going to be talking about the history there. And then up at the Rum River event on February 1st, the library is going to put on a community visioning exercise where people can work with colored paper and magazines and glitter to put together kind of their vision of what the community should look like. And then we're going to help them understand that you can help your community look like that by being counted in the census and by registering to vote, because those are the ways that we make it happen. And so that's kind of what the whole thing is about, is building democracy through these events.
Well, with these discussions, with these speakers, and with that activity in particular, it sounds like you're trying to make it interactive and for as many ages as possible.
And we'll have cookies, too.
Oh, well, then, then let's all go. Of course, cookies, right. It's about getting this message out and education and letting people access that and be able to make decisions for themselves and for their families and for their voting.
Yeah, we're not telling anybody how to vote, but we sure hope that everybody votes, because a democracy doesn't work unless you're out there making your voice heard. So that's the goal.
What other events the League of Women Voters? Obviously here on North Metro TV, we have aired several of your campaign season debates or candidate forums. Are there other programs that you all are doing on a regular basis that folks could know about?
So our league, Anoka, Blaine, Coon Rapids, actually serves all of Anoka County plus Champlin and Dayton in northern Hennepin County. And we meet every the second Monday of the month, generally, at Andover City Hall. And so we frequently will have speakers in, and we'll do programs that way. We also do a series of election forums, and we do those in election season. So probably next September, October, you'll start to see our forums. Well, and earlier than that for the primaries. And so there, the candidates for state office and for local city offices get together and have, it's not really a debate, but we ask questions and they answer the questions. And sometimes they'll answer each other, but mostly they just answer the questions. Our forums are always moderated by a League of Women Voters trained moderator, who is making sure that we're fair to both parties and nonpartisan. So anyhow, so we have those forums. We also do special event kind of things. And so the presidential primaries coming up here, early voting starts, the 17th of January, so a month from now, which is just astounding. We are part of the Super Tuesday primaries, so that'll be a big thing. And when the Minnesota early voters start voting, that will actually be the first early voting in the presidential primary in the country. So it's your chance to make history by voting in the primary. And the primary is going to be a tough one for people because you have to declare your party, and that's not comfortable for Minnesotans. And so to help people understand that, we recently did a program with Paul Linnell, the Anoka County election supervisor, and that's going to air here on North Metro Cable as well. And if you want to talk to Paul Linnell in person, January 4th, we're going to be down at Northtown Library, 1:30. And I hope that the public comes to talk to Paul and really understand how this election's going to work, and because it's different and it's something that we've not done here before.
Well, 2020 as a whole is unique in that regard. It's the first for Minnesota to be this early in this primary process, but then obviously the general elections in November. A smattering of local races here coming up in Anoka County, the District 6 County Board election in February, a couple other small ones. So you guys, your organization, I should say, is in a prime location and in a prime spot in the community to kind of keep this conversation happening.
Yes, that's right. And we work hard to make sure that people have access to information. And so we promote Vote 411 as a League of Women Voters website, and also Minnesota Votes is the Secretary of State's website. Both of those are good sources of information. So if you want to vote and you're not sure if you're registered, you can go to the Secretary of State's website and see if you're registered. You can see what's going to be on the ballot for you, and there's a lot of things you can do. And the Secretary of State's website is very good because you can actually click on most of the candidates' names and it'll pop you off to their website so you can look at what they got going on.
People are learning more about the history of the suffrage movement and kind of its origins, and then, as you said, as Minnesota's kind of identity with that was shaped, they may be learning some of that history, but I would imagine that in the current time that we are and in the current political climate and partisanship or whatever the case may be, that this message and these kinds of initiatives have a unique place and an important place in the conversation.
Yeah, League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization, meaning that we don't support candidates. We support people running for office because we think that's great, especially women people, but all people we try to support and make sure that they have a fair chance, because that's an important thing. But we, like I said, we don't support individual candidates. We do take positions on topics, so we'll do that from time to time, but we do not support individual candidates or parties.
Is there anything about Anoka County and its place not only in the metro but in the state that makes these kinds of things even more unique, or the positioning, or the growth in Anoka County, or the
rest of the metro area especially, but many rural areas too, we're changing. So we're seeing a different demographic as immigrants come in, as more people of color move in. And so our league is trying to find ways to work with the more diverse communities that we have too. In the past, many league people looked like me, older white women, but we are trying to make sure that we are involved in enough events that we can broaden ourselves.
And men, you say men are involved?
Anybody, all genders over the age of 16 can join with League of Women Voters, and anybody can participate in our meetings. So.
And anybody of age can vote, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's
you have
kind
to be
of
18 to vote.
Right, but that follows right along with that. It's just this whole uniformity and this whole push to get people to vote.
Yeah, a big thing that we do too is a lot of voter registration, and so you'll maybe see us in your local libraries this in 2020. or at malls, events. We're going to try to make sure that we have a presence throughout the community, helping people register to vote, and because that kind of goes hand in hand with census work too, and so we're promoting all those things.
It sounds like it goes hand in hand with the community programs that the library is always doing. You guys obviously are able to locate with them, and they can facilitate these kinds of discussions for you.
Yeah, and we work with also the Columbia Heights Library, so we have other non-affiliated libraries in the area.
Okay, well, Gretchen, those events again, let's make sure I have it right here. January 13th through 29th at Northtown Library. The opening celebration January 13th from 6:30 to 7:30, and then it will shift up the road a little bit, January 30th through February 14th at Rum River Library in Anoka, and the opening celebration will be February 1st from 11:30 until 1:30. Looking for anybody and everybody to come out and learn. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen Sabel from League of Women Voters here in Anoka County. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Conversations. I'm Rusty Ray.